Hello, I'm Jenny Ford, Director of Client Success at Paradigm Personality Labs. Often we're asked, how does personality preference shift over time? Today, John Lipinski, our Chief Research and Innovation Officer, is going to talk to us a little bit on this topic. Hi, John.
Hi, Jenny. Thank you very much. And so one question that often comes up, as Jenny highlighted, is what's going to happen to my personality over time? And fortunately, there's been a lot of research in this over the last few decades. Generally, there's some larger trends. So when we look specifically at the period of early adulthood to kind of middle adulthood, one thing that's been noticed is increases in accommodation, or what is often referred to as agreeability. And that makes sense, right? So as people mature, there's some additional wiring that occurs. So our executive functions are operating a little bit more effectively, and our social roles change as well. So as individuals move from, let's say, late childhood into more adult roles, into the workforce, there's changes in social roles, there's changes in environments, and changes in expectations and maturity that can lead to those increases in accommodation. A second component is increases in consolidation. So that would be increased conscientiousness at work, for example, understanding that one has to get the job done because you have a job. Also increases responsibility in our own lives, whether that's family or children, or potentially taking care of our parents. There are increased responsibilities there. And so as in some sense our life seasons change, we see often, though not always, but often comparable changes in personality and personality traits. A third component is a decrease in the need for stability. So one might view this as sort of increased emotional stability. Again, variety of inputs there, changes in physiology, biology, but also experiences, things that may have perhaps ruffled your feathers, if you will, when you were younger. Now with the background of experience and understanding that what seems like a big deal now may in fact not be that big of a deal, gives us some more overall perspective. So for the early and middle adulthood, those are the primary changes there. On the other end, if we look at old age, we often see decreases in originality or decreases in openness, perhaps not too surprising, just given what we may have seen in our own lives. And there also tends to be sometimes a decrease in extroversion as well. Again, variety of reasons. Part of that is probably just physiology, changes in biology, changes in our ability to interact with the world, and also changes in our life circumstances as we get into those later stages of our lives.
Thanks, John. So as individuals, how might we work on certain aspects of our personality if there's something that we'd like to improve on?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. So everything that I just highlighted is really about the broader trends, right? But of course, individually, those things can differ by substantial amounts. So the direction of those changes can change for either internal or external reasons, as well as the degree of those changes. So in terms of taking control or really kind of seizing or creating impact in our own lives, I think the first thing is self-awareness. So taking a high quality Big Five type personality assessment certainly makes a big difference. Like, start with where you're at. The second then is based on those insights. Really ask yourself, well, what particular components can I leverage in my work and in my life to really enhance the quality of my life, to enhance sort of my own structure, how it is that we structure what it is in our minds and what we choose to focus on. And then by extension, also look at particular challenges. So we think about challenges, all of us have a number of strengths, and we also have challenges that we face. In some instances, those challenges might be successfully worked around by either collaborating with others or changing certain aspects of our work roles. So thinking deliberately about what that specific challenge is and how we might be able to change some elements of our circumstances so it doesn't impact our day-to-day life or our family life and our work life quite as much. In other instances related to those challenges, it may be quite literally getting help from someone else. That could be a family member, coworkers, or colleagues to say, hey, look, here's this thing that I find particularly challenging, but turns out to be impactful for my role in the family or impactful for my role at work. And I need your help here. And I think, really being open-minded and recognizing we all have our limits, but collaboratively we can get a lot more done. As far as actually changing our own sort of habits of thought and our actions and how it is that we present ourselves to the world and how we operate in the world, I think that the biggest thing is to really think about what's the next specific step that I could take that will help me move in a given direction. So I would say, for example, let's say organization. I'm not necessarily the most organized person. My desk is a little bit messy, right? I don't have to become an organized person overnight. I can instead say, I'm going to set aside 2 minutes at the end of every day. That's all I'm going to do is just 2 minutes and just organize 2 things on my desk, or maybe I'll just remove the coffee cups, or maybe I'll just put the pens away. And over time, build up that habit where you start to incorporate that as an expectation for your behavior. And what happens over time is you essentially become what you do. And not only will that start to filter down into sort of our, our lower conscious mind or unconscious mind, if you will, but then in addition, your environment itself will start to act as a cue for the kinds of behaviors that you want to engage in. So we'll no longer look at the coffee cup as something that I'm willing to tolerate on my desk. I'll say, no, that definitely has to be done. It's the end of the day. It's 2 minutes and move it aside. The big thing is small steps, really, really specific concrete actions, and persistence. Make it easy on yourself. And if you do that over time, you may find that you'll eventually incorporate the kinds of behaviors that you want to incorporate, and your narrative about yourself, who it is that you are and how you see yourself, will gradually start to change over time. And that gives you an opportunity to potentially change some of those traits in meaningful ways over extended periods of time that you find favorable.
Thanks, John. These are great topics to cover also with an executive coach if you're working with one. Often in coaching, we talk about the so what. It's interesting to know your personality preferences, but then how do you work on those? Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate your thoughts and expertise on this. If you'd like to learn a little more about personality, how it works, maybe a different perspective on some of these same things, we have a couple of books we'd recommend. Me, Myself, and Us by Brian Little, and Atomic Habits by James Clear. You can find references to these in the original email where you found this video link. Thank you for your time today.
Great. Thanks so much, Jenny.